Look at that. As I turn the engine, that piston moves. And that is what creates what compresses the gas, creating the loud explosions that you hear. Oh, are you kidding me? Buddy, it's your working man back at it once again. Today we do have a really interesting project, different than my typical ones. We have a lawnmower that stopped working quite a few weeks ago, and I figure hell with it. If we're going to throw it away, I might as well tear it apart. Maybe I'll find out what's wrong, probably not, but it'll be interesting. Here it is right here. Tecumseh. I don't know how the hell you say that brand name. But that's the information on this thing. One of my roommates was mowing the lawn, and it just decided to stop working. And I think he said he couldn't even pull it, as if the engine seized up. Oh, well, now it pulls just fine. But also, I had it upside down for a while. When I turned it back up, a bunch of oil poured out. So I'm definitely not sure. Yeah, that's why it's going to be interesting to just tear it apart. If it didn't work, let's see if we can get it to work or just see some interesting sights in the process. I just removed the pull mechanism, starting the engine. What's on top of that is what it connects to. If you turn this by hand, it cranks the whole engine. As you saw, when I tried to pull it attached, it does spin, so the engine isn't seized. Gas tank's already disconnected. But that was before I started. A good trick to remember with free moving parts, for example, I had to take off this nut here that was attached to this, so if I tried to loosen it, the whole thing was spinning. However, if I jammed this in here, let's see, where did I jam it? Had a good spot, but if I jammed this in here, it stopped it from spinning. Can never recreate something when it matters most. There. Jammed it like that. Went to tighten it off. Couldn't move because I was jammed in there. Done. It's off. Might still be mounted somewhere. It looks like this makes contact here for some reason. Maybe that, some type of friction for electricity to create the spark. Not really sure. See that contact in the middle especially? It hits these parts. Yeah, that's it, because that connects to the spark plug. Oh, okay. So that's how these things generate spark. See, we are learning things already. This very small thing is called a carburetor. It's what gives the engine the proper amount of gas and air mixture. So what you just watched me do is I took off the air filter. Here's the air line that seems to connect directly to the engine via this mechanism, this tubing. This is called a float. This has something to do with supplying the proper amount of fuel to the engine. I'm not positive on just exactly what that does. This is what was connected to the fuel tank, but I already disconnected that off, as you also saw. It looks like it connects to here, which then connects to this float on the bottom. So I'm going to end up probably disconnecting this carburetor too. Have some fun with that. That's the air line. It's off. Now, another tricky thing to remember when you are working on things, sometimes they'll have a bolt with a nut on the end. So when you try to take off either of them, the other will twist. That's why you take something like pliers, connect it to the other end, and then crank at it with the wrench or whatever you're using. And if the other side can't move, then the side you're wrenching or ratcheting will come loose. It's extra interesting for me because I have never messed with carburetors in the past. Cars or anything. Never. So this will be the first time I've ever had a carburetor like this off of anything. Look at that. Just like your car's typical throttle body. You got this little slot here. Butterfly valve. That'll control how much air, maybe even fuel too, not positive how carburetors work, is going into the engine. This is when you pull the lever up top, this is what it controls. Just like that. Bolt on the bottom, but that's how the float comes off. We've already taken a lot of this apart. Next, it appears like I'm hitting the muffler. The muffler is off. Focus. And what I'm going to call the intake manifold is off. You can still see the gasket on there. Keep it with the bolts, even though I don't think I'll be reassembling this. Just for fun. Both of these had a bunch of oil in them. Now, unfortunately, since this was turned upside down, I don't know if that was the core problem or if it's just because I had it upside down and it leaked into the piston cylinder wall. We continue. It's just a matter of time until I take off this, don't remember what this is called, but I used to watch a YouTube channel called Project Farm who did this stuff all the time. It was really cool. He played with these a lot. But this is what the piston smashes to make compression and blow up the gas in there. No way. Is the oil all the way in here? Oh. Whoa. What? This one is really cool. Now we're seeing in part of the internals of the engine. These appear to be springs, probably related to operation of the piston. As you can see, when I turn the top of the motor, these are moving back and forth. That is pretty cool. I believe this is the cylinder head, because it is the top of the piston cylinder. There's a lot of bolts on here. Yep, cylinder head for sure. Look at that. This one was really nasty. Oh man, I think this lawnmower's seen a lot of use. Sunlight's glaring. Hold on. There we are. Now I got a good view. Look at that. As I turn the engine, that piston moves. And that is what creates what compressed is the gas, creating the loud explosions that you hear. Now, look at that. Like I said earlier, intake manifold, exhaust manifold. I believe it was in that order, but that means as the engine's turning, this is the exhaust coming out when that opens. No, I'm sorry. This is the intake of air and fuel right here, letting it in. And then that's the exhaust. I think that is what them springs are attached to as well, that I showed earlier in the video. Ooh, I'll tell you what. Probably why it stopped working. I don't think that you'll be able to see it, but the walls of this piston are really cut up. Oh, you can hear it. Listen. That's my fingernail hitting all the scratches on the cylinder wall. Now the thing is this cylinder wall is supposed to be perfectly smooth, clean. So probably all the scratches and holes were causing it to lose fluid compression and have oil leak into the piston, which should cause it to not fire, and maybe even if the wall was filled with oil, to not be able to move anymore. It can't compress fluids. It can only compress fluids to a certain point. So this lawnmower is officially screwed. Interesting stuff. I told you we'd learn a lot. I think that's about as far as we need to go today. We took off the intake manifold, carburetor, fuel tank, air filter, valve cover, thingy-mabob, muffler, starting/crank assembly, cylinder head, and we've seen the actual piston in action. Does it for today. I hope you were interested. Hope you learned something. I know I learned a few things or two. If you did enjoy this video, punch that subscribe button and ratchet that bell so you can see notifications of my future uploads. Got plenty more interesting stuff like this coming up. Maybe a few projects. I got an idea for a working man's song/anthem. Should be pretty funny and or interesting. So, keep posted for future videos. Thanks for watching.